Sophia Reyes opened her phone, and the notification hit like a fist to the stomach. The review was titled, "Sophia's Tacos is a Joke." Paul Kendrick wrote, "A sad imitation of real cuisine." Meanwhile, Stern next door is perfection.
He didn't even eat my food. This was personal.
Paul Kendrick typed the final line with a smile. He knew exactly which restaurant he was helping.
It's already everywhere. They're all laughing.
Across the street, Stern glowed with warm light. A line of town cars waited at the curb. Inside, champagne flutes clinked, and the chef's tasting menu was booked for weeks. Sophia stood alone in her empty truck, the street outside her window, dark and silent.
I've seen that name before. Where?
By morning, Paul Kendrick's review had been shared 30,000 times, and Sophia's Tacos was the punchline of the city. The next morning, Sophia lifted the serving window. A group of young men in logo tees stood waiting, phones out. One of them held up his phone, reading the review aloud. A sad imitation of real cuisine. The others laughed.
You came all this way to read me a review. Let me give you something to actually taste.
She slid a freshly made al pastor taco across the counter toward the loudest one. He hesitated. He took a bite. The smirk vanished. His eyes went wide. His friend leaned in. "What? Did it kill your taste buds?" The man just shook his head, wordless.
That reaction never lies. It's the only review they'll remember.
The man turned to his group, voice lowered. "This is seriously good. Like, not a joke good." Across the street, Paul stood at Stern's window, watching the small crowd linger at the truck. His jaw tightened. A line was forming. Not long, but real. The city's most brutal review had just met its first contradiction. By afternoon, Sophia's line had tripled. Diners filmed their first bite, waiting for the joke. Inside Stern, a couple pushed their plates away. The man dabbed his mouth, dissatisfied. He muttered the tasting menu was unbalanced. $300, and they were still hungry. Paul, passing, caught the remark. It settled on him like a stain. That night, Sophia scrubbed the griddle alone. The silence felt heavier than it had in weeks. She reached into a drawer for a fresh apron, and her hand caught on an old envelope. She pulled out a photograph. Herself at 24, in chef whites, standing outside Stern.
That was another life. One I planned to keep buried.
She tucked the photo back, but didn't throw it away. Some things you keep for fuel. Across the street, Paul scrolled his phone in Stern's empty dining room. A video of a man weeping over a taco had gone viral. The next morning, a regular at the window leaned in. "You hear about the old chef at Stern. Fired, they say. No one knows why." Sophia's tongue stopped midair.
They're talking about my firing. Right to my face.
A memory surged. A younger Sophia in chef whites, slamming a counter. A tall shadow shouted back, voice muffled but furious. She had been defending fresh masa, real chilies. The shadow demanded cheaper. Mass-produced shortcuts. It ended with her apron on the floor, a door slamming, and the taste of betrayal she'd carried for years. Sophia blinked, back in her truck, and crimped the next taco with a force that rattled the metal tray.
Let them gossip. My food doesn't lie.
That evening, Paul took his usual table at Stern. The dining room felt like a held breath. Half the seats were empty. The manager approached with a tablet. "We've had 3 one-star reviews today. Each one mentions the taco truck." Paul's hand tightened on his wine glass. The comparison he had written was eating its own creator. By week's end, Sophia's line wrapped the block. Customers posted raves about her al pastor. A top food blogger posted, "Ignore the critic. Sophia's Tacos is the real deal." Meanwhile, Stern's online rating dropped a full star as one-star reviews flooded in. Paul's phone buzzed. His editor's name flashed, and dread curdled his stomach.
"You are overreacting. This is just internet noise. My reputation can handle a few bad reviews."
But the editor's voice was ice. 3 advertisers had already pulled out due to the backlash.
"Then I'll publish a new piece. I'll prove Stern is superior. This is just a panic."
He threw on his scarf and strode to the corner. The line at Sophia's Tacos snaked out of sight. Snaked out of sight.
There he is, watching his own words come back to bite him.
The critic who had called her a joke now stood helpless as the city lined up for her food. A customer at the window said, "The old chef at Stern was a genius. Walked out one day and never came back."
Walked out. They have no idea I was thrown out for defending my grandmother's recipes.
The memory sharpened. Stern's kitchen. Victor's cold blue eyes. Use the cheap masa or pack your knives.
I won't serve fake food. My grandmother taught me flavor can't be faked.
Then you're done. Leave your apron.
And in a corner table, scribbling notes for a review he hadn't yet written, sat Paul Kendrick.
He was there, the night I lost my career. Did he write that review for Victor?
She pulled out the framed photo of her grandmother, the one who had given her the recipes.
Abuelita, you told me the food would speak for itself. Now I have to be its voice.
She hung the photo beside the menu and turned to the window. The secret she'd carried had a face now. A food blogger with a long memory posted a single image. Paul Kendrick and Victor Stern, clinking wine glasses at a private dinner last month. The caption read, "Is Stern's critic really impartial? How many free dinners bought this review?"
That's the same dinner. He wrote that review after that dinner. It was all set up.
Within an hour, the post had 40,000 shares. Paul's phone turned into a siren.
It's just a friendly dinner. I didn't write the review for Victor. I am objective.
But the internet wasn't convinced. Someone dug up Paul's old tweets praising Stern years before it opened. Victor's call sliced through. His voice was tight with fury.
That photo was private, Paul. I told you to delete it. Now they're calling my restaurant a scam.
Your restaurant was already failing. You made me write that review so you could charge $300 for frozen food.
Sophia watched the men who had tried to destroy her tear each other apart, and she waited. Paul published a polished statement. "I am an impartial critic. My dinner with Victor was social. The review was fair." The comments flooded in within seconds. "Liar. 300 for frozen food. Who paid you?"
He's still at it, spinning fiction to save his career. He thinks I'll stay quiet.
Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She had 3 paragraphs ready. The firing, the witness, the rigged review.
Abuelita, I could end them, but they'll come for me. The lawyers, the threats.
Across town, Victor slipped an envelope to a local food columnist. $5,000 to write that the review was honest. By evening, a piece titled "In Defense of Stern's Honest Critic" went live, praising Paul's integrity.
They're paying to rewrite history. I can't outbribe them, but I have the truth.
She deleted the message. Then she opened the camera and propped the phone against the salsa bottles. She had the words. Now she needed the courage to speak them and face the fire that would follow. A sharp knock on the window shattered the quiet. Sophia looked up to see Victor Stern's gray silhouette outside.
Sophia, let's end this quietly. $20,000, and you forget you ever heard of Stern.
$20,000 to erase what he did. The exact price of my silence.
The memory of her apron on the floor and the slamming door flickered behind her eyes. The offer felt like a second dismissal.
You think I am for sale? You fired me for refusing to use fake food. Now you want to buy my integrity?
I am offering a way out. Take the money, or your truck will face unexpected health code violations.
He'd do it, but I won't be blackmailed into silence. Get away from my truck, Victor. I'll take my chances.
Victor's shadow stiffened. Then he turned and melted into the darkness, but his threat clung to the glass. Sophia turned back to her phone, the camera still propped. No more hesitation. She pressed record, and the red light blinked.
My name is Sophia Reyes, and I was the head chef at Stern. The critic who trashed my truck is Victor Stern's close friend. I was fired for refusing to use cheap ingredients. Victor demanded shortcuts, and I chose my grandmother's recipes over my job. The night I was fired, Paul Kendrick was in the restaurant. He knew. He wrote the review to help his friend.
She held up the old photograph, herself at 24 in Chef White's outside Stern. The proof of what she had been and lost. She stopped recording and, without giving herself another moment, pressed upload. The video went live at 11:43 p.m. For a long minute. Nothing happened. Then her phone lit up like a shaken hornet's nest. Comments, shares, notifications flooding in a torrent. Sophia set the phone down and wrapped her arms around herself, alone in the dark truck, heart pounding.
It's out. There's no taking it back. Abuelita, give me strength for what comes next.
The red record light faded, but the real fire was just beginning. By dawn, the city would know her name. Dawn broke harsh and sudden. Paul Kendrick woke to a notification that turned his stomach to ice. Sophia's video had exploded to over 90,000 views.
What do you mean? Explain yourself. It's a smear campaign. She's a disgruntled former employee.
His editor didn't flinch. You are suspended effective immediately, Paul. Advertisers are fleeing. The board convenes at noon.
I've spent years building my reputation. One video from a taco vendor won't erase that.
Before he could gather a response, his phone lit up again. Victor Stern, and the voice that came through was barely human.
You idiot. They're pulling our financial records. You've buried us both with your arrogance.
Across the intersection, Sophia's truck was wrapped in a living wave of supporters. They had come before sunrise, holding her tacos like protest signs. The chant rose from the crowd. Sophia, Sophia. The Critic's mockery had been repurposed into her victory anthem. On Paul's laptop, a new hashtag dominated the screen. Number Paul Kendrick is over party. His online presence was a funeral pyre. He threw his phone onto the sofa, then his scarf, then himself into the chair, staring at the ceiling as the notifications kept screaming. Sophia typed a post from the truck window, the crowd still chanting. 6 words, second truck coming. Thank you for believing.
They called me a joke. Now I'll have 2 punchlines.
Inside Stern, the reservation book had 0 entries for the weekend. The maitre stared at a silent phone. Victor called his attorney, voice tight. Can we sue for defamation? The answer made him colder.
A lawsuit means discovery. They'll see every dirty deal. Forget it.
Paul hunched over his laptop, deleting every tweet that praised Stern before its doors opened. But screenshots had already spread. Every deleted post was reposted with a red circle around his words. He slammed the laptop shut, but the internet was a mirror that never forgot.
They tried to erase me. Instead, they gave me a spotlight.
The Critic's big mistake was now the fuel for Sophia's rise, and Stern next door was a hollow shell. A formal proposal arrived in Sophia's inbox from Victor Stern's lawyer. $150,000 for her taco recipes, and a strict non-disclosure agreement.
He really thinks he can buy what he threw away. 150 grand to swallow my pride and my story.
She glanced at the worn recipe notebook, her grandmother's handwriting curling across the pages, the roots of everything she fought for.
These aren't mine to sell. Abuelita gave them to me to use, not to trade for silence.
She opened her social media and typed, Victor Stern offered me $150,000 for my recipes and a gag order. I reject bribery. My food is not for sale. Within minutes, the post exploded. Thousands of likes, shares, comments calling her a hero. The integrity she refused to sell became her brand. In his empty dining room, Victor read the post and hurled a wine glass against the wall. The shatter echoed through the hollow restaurant.
That money would have been safe, but safe isn't what Abuelita taught me.
She lit the griddle and pulled out a fresh batch of masa. The smell of history filled the truck. Sophia's second truck was already under construction, and she would build it with her own hands, not with dirty money. The board of the city's largest paper met at noon. By 12:07, Paul Kendrick was terminated for cause. His byline would never run again. Then an old clip resurfaced. Paul smirking at an awards dinner, saying, "A critic's word is iron. If I say a restaurant is a joke, it's a joke." The internet made it a meme. He threw his scarf against the wall, grabbed his coat, and walked out, not toward his car, toward Sophia's tacos. He arrived disheveled, scarf missing, eyes wild. A small crowd had already gathered, their phones recording. Sophia looked up from the griddle, wiping her hands. She had known this moment would come.
You ruined me over a bad review. I was just doing my job. You think you are some hero?
You rigged a review to hurt me because your friend fired me. I just told the truth. Truth isn't heroism.
Paul's jaw worked, but no words came. The crowd's silence was heavier than any insult. He spun and stalked away, his legend reduced to a bitter man, shouting at a taco truck. His scarf lay forgotten on the wet pavement.
Not my victory. Just the truth finally catching up.
The second truck's opening was a block party, not a launch. Before sunrise, a line wrapped 2 full blocks, and 3 news vans lined the curb.
2 trucks now. 4 times the line. Not bad for a joke, abuelita.
News crews captured the moment Sophia served her 1,000th taco of the morning, and her smile said everything about someone who had been called a joke. Victor Stern watched the coverage from his office, phone pressed to his ear like a weapon.
Sophia, let's end this. I'll give you equity. We rebrand Stern together. Your recipes, my name.
No thanks, Victor. I am good.
Victor stared at the dead line, his offer worth less than the silence. Sophia hung up and turned to the next person in line, sliding a taco across the counter.
I built this without you. I'll keep building.
The line stretched past Stern's darkened entrance, a river of people who had come for her food, not his bribe. By nightfall, Sophia had sold over 2,000 tacos. The critic's biggest mistake was now just a footnote. 3 months later, Stern's windows were dark. A faded "for lease" sign hung in the door. Victor had shuttered operations the week Sophia's second truck launched. The scandal had killed investor trust. Paul Kendrick had left the city. His byline became a cautionary tale in journalism classes. Sophia's 2 trucks were booked solid. Her phone buzzed with catering requests from companies that once ignored her. The city named her Business Owner of the Year. She stood between her trucks, arms folded, the wry smile.
A joke that feeds 1,000 a day. Abuelita would laugh.
Her grandmother's recipe card hung in both trucks, the integrity she refused to sell. Food bloggers made pilgrimages. They ordered al pastor and toasted to the critic's biggest mistake. Across the street, the empty restaurant stood as a monument to a critic's favoritism. The review had crashed a restaurant, just not the one Paul Kendrick intended. A month after the magazine piece, a handwritten envelope slid under Sophia's truck door after closing. She opened it. "Miss Reyes, I am a line cook at a hotel downtown. My chef bullies the staff. I was about to quit. Then I saw your video." The words continued. "I stood up to him. I got fired. But I don't regret it, because you showed me integrity isn't old-fashioned."
Abuelita, they're learning. Not recipes, courage.
She pulled a piece of tape and fixed the letter next to her grandmother's recipe card. Side by side.
2 pieces of paper now. One from the past, one from the future I helped start.
She didn't cry for herself. She cried because the fight had never been just about one taco truck. She stepped outside. The city quiet now. The "for lease" sign across the street catching the last light.
That letter. That's the real victory. Not the trucks, not the title. Someone else found their spine.
The critic's mistake had done more than build a business. It had lit a fire in kitchens he'd never see. As dusk settled, Sophia flipped the closed sign and slid the window shut. The last few customers wandered home, their taco wrappers fluttering in the evening breeze. She stepped out and sat on the truck's back bumper, the metal still warm from the day's griddle.
All the noise of the past months, and now this quiet feels like a reward.
Inside, her grandmother's recipe card glowed under the small overhead lamp, the ink still bold after decades.
You'd be proud, Abuelita. I didn't sell, I just cooked.
A distant siren wailed, but it didn't reach here. Only the rustle of leaves and faint smell of masa.
It wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to be erased.
She stood, stretched, and took one last look at the darkened Stern across the way. No wait, just closure. Then she walked inside, the closed sign swaying gently behind her. Tomorrow, she'd do it again. A single critic's word had been meant to bury one restaurant. Instead, it toppled the other. Sophia's 2 trucks glowed under string lights, booked solid every night. Her name a new institution. The recipe card her grandmother had written decades ago now hung in 2 places. The ink, never more valuable. Paul Kendrick's scarf, once a symbol of his influence, lay forgotten on a wet pavement miles away. Sophia folded her apron over her arm and locked the truck, her shadow stretching down the quiet sidewalk. She had built something that needed no critic's approval. Just hungry people and honest food. The "for lease" sign across the street was a quiet monument to a plan that had backfired spectacularly. Inside the truck, the recipe card waited, a small piece of paper that had outlasted empires. Sophia disappeared into the city night, her grandmother's words guiding every step. The critic's big mistake was never her food. It was underestimating the power of integrity in a taco. Inside the new truck, beside the grandmother's recipe card, Sophia had pinned a fresh, handwritten note. It read, "Never sell your soul for someone else's restaurant." That sentence was the creed that had carried her through every bribe and threat across the intersection. Stern's windows were a monument to the opposite choice. The note was small, but it said everything 100 reviews could not. It hung next to the recipe that had started it all, a twin testament to integrity. Outside, the For Lease sign creaked in the wind, a postscript to a critic's folly. Paul Kendrick's name was forgotten. Sophia's had become shorthand for the power of refusing to sell. She had never written a review. She just let the food speak, and in the empty lot, the only verdict that remained was the one her customers delivered every day. The next morning broke pale and clean. Sophia unlocked the truck and watched a gold ribbon of light stretch across the street. She flipped the sign to open and let the morning air settle into the truck. Her hand brushed the recipe card on the wall, the same words that had carried her through every storm. The griddle hissed as it woke. The smell of masa bloomed out onto the sidewalk. A young woman in scrubs was already waiting, the first customer of many. Sophia handed her a taco with the quiet pride of someone who had never needed a critic to validate her work. The woman took a bite and closed her eyes. Another silent review, more powerful than any column.
That's the only critic that ever mattered.
Across the street, the For Lease sign caught the light, but she didn't look. She didn't look. She didn't need to. The recipe card waited inside, a small witness to the biggest mistake a critic ever made, and the quiet answer that had outlasted him. What had begun as a critic's favoritism became the undoing of the restaurant he championed. Sophia Reyes never wrote a rebuttal column, never hired a lawyer, never launched a boycott. She just kept cooking the food her grandmother had taught her, taco by taco. The line outside her truck grew longer every week, but she never forgot the night she read that review alone. Now the street is quiet. Stern's windows reflect nothing but the sky. The For Lease sign has faded, but Sophia's Tacos still opens every morning. In the end, the critic's big mistake wasn't praising Stern. It was underestimating the power of honest food. Because while reviewers can be bought and menus can be cut, a true recipe survives everything. And Sophia? She's still there, arms folded on the window, watching the line stretch down the block. A joke that became a legend, a critic who became a cautionary tale, and a recipe that became a revolution.